Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 600. Yeehaw! Recorded live on Sunday, May 24th. I'm your host, Patrick. Hey guys, we made it to 600. That's pretty cool.
Hey, congratulations. That's incredible.
Yeah, thanks for listening. With me this week, we have returning the show, Arkat.
Good morning, everybody, or Merry Arcatmas, or whatever Nimbin says.
And we also have Asheras.
Hey, happy Memorial Day, everyone.
Yeah, that's definitely something worth kind of mentioning in here a little bit. It is Memorial Day tomorrow, which will come up again later when we talk about the bonus days, because it is a little bit longer because of that. And then, yeah. So thank you for all those who have given their lives in the service of their country. Kind of expanded to not just the U.S., but that's what Memorial Day is for us in the U.S., is to remember those who have given the ultimate sacrifice for the country through armed services. So those celebrations are a little less fun and extravagant this year because of the current pandemic and a lot of events not being able to happen. But that does not lessen our appreciation for those folks and their families and the sacrifice they've made. Back to the fun stuff. Yeah, this is episode 600. For those who are interested in the counting funness, this is my 300th show, producing the show. Jerry did, I think, or Cordovan did up to around 190, somewhere in that range, and then the Trents went up to episode 300, and then I took over at 301. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a privilege to be doing this for that long. And thanks for listening to me drone on about, and my guests to drone on about DDO stuff. This week's screenshot, winter arrives for Liprians in our 464th screenshot of the week. Thanks, Liprians, for sending in this week's screenshot. Nice little Storm's Horns shot in widescreen.
Yeah, that screenshot's got to be one of the best. I mean, of all of them that have been taken. It's perfectly composed. The subject is great. You know, the storm horns, snow, sort of thing. And the guy who took the screenshot made, his tune was dressed perfectly as well. The white dragon armor with the silver dragon scale helm. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that screenshot. It's great.
High praise. It's a great screenshot. I have nothing to say in addition to that. Well done. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by CyberEars, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next weekend, and you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOcast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, we are going to have an Ask the Devs. This is just a couple quick production notes about that. This is a pre-recorded thing that we will also be streaming as part of this airing. And of course, it will be with the recorded show. So you'll be able to get to see all of that interview that I had with the devs a couple days ago, talking about kind of current stuff. Really looking forward to having that. We'll also do our usual game and community news first with these guys here. And so we'll just jump right into the game news part. Update 46, patch 2 hit Lamania this week. It was up for a couple of days. Their usual Tuesday to Thursday opening. And it debuted a couple of new things that some had been hinted at a little bit, but it's also some kind of brand new stuff, including a random loot revamp and the new Warlock packs, which we'll get into after kind of the main portion of the notes. So stuff that we had here. So character stuff. Alchemist spellbooks are now retained on lesser reincarnation, like wizards and artificers. I assume this means that you also get to pick new ones as you're leveling, which is kind of a bit of a cheesy workaround to buying scrolls if you're going to be playing those classes and just want to get all the fun stuff out of it, all the spells and stuff. Let's see. Epic Destiny's Divine Crusader confront any foe now properly enforces its 2-second cooldown.
I don't understand this one. The wiki was saying that there was no cooldown on it, and I thought that was intended, with the limitation being each one of those uses of confront any foe takes a smite undead, or rather a turn undead charge. So
Maybe
why?
there's a global, supposed to be a global cooldown on turn usage. I don't know. I got
It
nothing.
just seemed rather. I mean, I've heard people say we're spamming it, but I mean, how much could they really spam it if they, if their turn undead uses are limited? It didn't make much sense to me.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what is this. This isn't the smite one, is it? The smite ability? Is that what it is?
It's no, it's in a Divine Crusader tree. It's a, obviously it's a toggle, or not a toggle, but you hit it once and it does like a 3W attack.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a it's not a whirlwind attack, but
A cleave.
one of those ones that can sweep out in front of you and get multiple enemies. So I'm really, like I said, I was really not really sure how abused it could possibly have been.
I think that this is probably, generally speaking, less an intended nerf and more along the lines of fixing something for a performance issue, potentially.
That could be.
That would kind of be a guess. Druid, Nature's Protector's killer instinct visual marks are no longer obscured by the body of the bear. The bear body does visually obscure a bunch of things, just in general. It's
big.
we'll call it the wide body model of wild shaping. Let's see. The feat Slicing Blow, this is kind of fun, has been changed to the following. It's a tactical melee attack. Using this attack, you deal 1 point of constitution damage to your target and deal 1 to 6 additional damage every 6 seconds for 18 seconds. The target suffers an additional 1 to 6 damage per tick for every 3 character levels, and that damage scales with 100% melee power and can stack 3 times. Some creatures may be immune to the bleeding or wounding effect. I am assuming, reading this, that it's you deal 1 point of constitution damage, and then the additional damage is not constitution damage. It's some other kind of damage.
It's just regular, slashing or whatever the
It
bear
would be
does
nice if they would have
damage.
typed it, if they would have mentioned what type it is.
Yeah.
Although I'm assuming it's kind of the same as most other bleeding effects. It's interesting to see how much it'll get used. I mean, if you're at level 30, that's what, 11d6 worth of damage? That's not insignificant.
Yeah, but it's really not all that much either. When you look
true.
at the filigree sets, they're, you get whatever the snake bite is, and you get, it's like three of the 4, 3 or the 5 of those that are out there. You get 14d6 of poison damage, and you get that at like 20th level when you start, using your sentient weapon again. So it's 11d6. I mean, yeah, it's better than a sharp stick to the eye, but certainly nothing to, to get excited about.
My thing with it would be, by the time that you are really going to start getting some bang for your buck, you probably have a bunch of other special attacks to make that you can make. And it's hard enough, I find at least, that it's hard enough as it is to to find hotkey and timing space to have all the special attacks I already have from my enhancement trees. I don't need another one from a feat.
And no, I agree. I mean, this is a feat that wasn't particularly useful, and I'm just before. I mean, nobody really had it, I don't think. I mean, and I played monks forever, and I never ever took it. Um, I just wonder if this is something that they decided to beef up a little bit in anticipation of the. And I hope I'm not spoiling it too much, but the new iconic shifter barbarian that uses hand wraps for the next expansion.
Possibly. We actually did talk about this in the Ask the Devs briefly. I think it might have been the pre-show stuff, but the short version is it seemed like they were just trying to, hey, this feat is lousy. Let's make it not lousy and make it a little better. Which, I mean, they did. It is better. I don't know if it's going to be like everyone's going to be taking it. But I mean, 11d6 that scales with 100% melee power and can stack 3 times. I mean, we'll see. There are other people that are far better at building than I am.
Yeah, that's a good point. I neglected to think about the 100% melee power and the stacking ability. It actually might turn out to be a decent beat now.
It's going to take you a while to get 3 stacks up, though. If it still has a 15-second cooldown, unless we're talking about adding a little extra damage to a boss on a big beatdown, most things die long before then.
Yeah, I'm surprised you know what the cooldown is. I'm impressed.
Yeah, did you know what the cooldown was?
I do. I have notes too.
Oh, all right. All right.
I would actually have preferred this become some sort of crowd control thing, more so than just additive damage over time. It's nice to have a dot, but I think really what melees need in particular are more crowd control options that are available before level 29.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, I could see that. They do hamstring is as a slow effect, isn't it? That you could take.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that might be. I mean, I think I like that this is a damage based thing as opposed to a crowd control thing, because I think there are ways to do crowd control. I'm also not sure how much crowd control melee should be able to do. Just kind of I don't know. I could go around in circles on that.
That's a different topic entirely.
Yeah, right. I think a high damage. Yeah, I think a high damage feat is fine. Makes sense to me. Panacea and Panacea Poultice will now once more heal hit point damage. Cool. Warlock Hurl Through Hell and Create Thrall have had their base DCs changed from 10 to 15.
Okay.
Well, so it was 15 for all time, and then Lynnabel found that that doesn't match the tooltip. The tooltip said it was 10 plus all the stuff that it adds. And he said, "Oh, well, the tooltip says 10, so I'm going to make it be 10." And then people are like, "Well, hey, that's not really what we were going for. Can we have the 5 DC back?"
Okay, again, it's that's take away from the players.
Well, it is, but it's also, I understand where Lynnabel is coming from, in the sense that the tooltip says one thing and the code says something else. So at that point you want to make it match. Which one do you pick? Is
so err on the favor of the players and just change the tooltip.
Sure.
I mean, changing the tooltip has to be easier than changing the code.
I mean, I'm assuming that this is just changing one number from a 0 to a 5 in the code. Not a programmer.
Maybe.
But
who knows?
Yeah. I think the difference probably is that 15 is relatively rare as a base DC, whereas 10
Sure.
and 20 seem to be the
10
two
and 20 are the main ones, yeah, for sure.
I can see where she would have gone with it's probably supposed to be 10, just on the fact that there's nothing else that is 15. But I see your point too.
I mean, you go either way. Obviously, we want it to be higher. From a game design standpoint, pick one.
How about,
see what happens?
I think it should be 30. Should have doubled it.
30.
Yeah, exactly. 30 would be awesome.
At level 15. Let's see. The insightful bonus to stunning DCs granted by Divine Might now are correctly typed as insightful. Deepwood Stalker's Heavy Trial will no longer erroneously apply an old penalty. Great. Fighter Kensai's Keen Edge now works with hand wraps. I didn't realize it didn't.
I think it, you know, in
Which
the
one?
what do you call it, in the monk, there's a monk feat that makes your hand-to-hand attacks also like it's like Vorpal Strike or something.
Yes,
Makes it
there's one.
an edged weapon. So I'm thinking that they needed to make this work with hand wraps because the what do you call it, the new shifter iconics won't get that
Um,
ability to make them slicing.
interesting. My sense is this is probably a holdover from the standpoint that they did that work to make hand wraps actually function like weapons and work with a bunch of
Mhm.
weapony stuff. And this is them kind of looping that in.
Okay.
That would be a guess.
Yeah, that's my guess too. Is that there used to be a ton of stuff in Kensai that did not work with hand wraps, and they've been
And outside
slowly
of
going back
Gensai.
through. Yeah, and a lot of different trees, and they've been going back and trying to correct that and
Yeah.
work that in. They've also been kind of like with Vorpal, where you can now Vorpal with a mace or with a crossbow. They've been kind of breaking down some of the limits on it having to have an edge in order to have a keen edge, for example.
Yeah, that ship,
Yeah,
the Vorpal ship
but
sailed, what, like 10 years
yeah,
ago?
yeah. So some of the basic logic, just so that way certain weapons like maces or hand wraps or things like that aren't less valuable just because they don't have that ability. Um, I get it. I mean, you want the tree to work with a lot of different weapon types,
Yeah.
for sure.
Sure.
And they talked about this in the SDev that's coming up after we're done talking about news about how they wanted to expand hand wraps from just being a monk thing a little bit. Let's see. Here's a nerf for everybody that's waiting for it. Wizard Palemaster Shroud of the Zombie has been changed to the following. You shroud yourself with negative energy and assume many traits of the zombie. While in this form, you hunger for brains. You gain +4 constitution, +10 melee power, +3 physical and magical resistance rating, and attack 10% slower. You have 100% critical hit resistance and are healed by negative energy, blah, 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 undead stuff. I should have looked this up before. What is? I believe the attack rate is less now, right? Because it was 20%, wasn't it?
Yes, it was 20% slower. Now it's
Yeah.
10% slower.
So that's faster. The Ascendant Shroud benefit for zombie form is now you gain an additional +30 melee power, 10 PRR, and your attacks deal 10% more damage. You also benefit from a 10% profane bonus to maximum hit points. People will note that there is far less range damage involved with this. It was +20% damage. I don't even know. There may not even been the melee power.
No, I don't think there was.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just percent more of damage.
Yep.
And the
correct.
Ascendant Shroud, that's tier 5, isn't it? Pretty
It's
sure.
higher than the other one,
It
that's for
is.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it 5?
tier 5. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you're going to be sinking a lot of levels into Wizard to get that.
Well, and more importantly, if you put a lot more of that damage into tier 5, you have to take tier 5, which excludes you from other
Tier 5s.
tier 5s.
Yeah.
So, this is
It's not going to happen.
yeah. This is definitely targeting ranged zombie builds.
throwers. Yeah.
Not just throwers, inquisitives too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I believe the person who was at the top of the Reaper leaderboard was running a zombie inquisitive build.
Hmm.
I think that's what he was running.
Well, we can no longer have any leaders of top of the boards anymore.
I mean, people come up with other stuff too. I
was being facetious. Come on.
I was kind of shocked when it came out that it was just 20% more damage, because that is significant, and
Oh, sure.
that is not what they normally tend to be doing. So
Not a core 3 like that. Yeah, that's really low.
yeah.
Well, three levels of a class to get 20% damage is not much.
I mean, even just percent damages are just not common for a lot of reasons. Glass shards item effect. They fixed an issue where glass shards wouldn't do damage because the attack was reapplying it too quickly. It can now only apply once every 3 seconds, allowing the dot to tick before a new stack applies. They increased the damage from 2d10 to 5d10, but the stack size decreased from 10 to 15. And each player can now add their own copy of the effect on the target. I believe before it was just 1 copy total. My sense would be that in general, you're probably going to end up with more damage. If only because I don't think, other than at some like raid boss fights, that you're going to get up to 100 stacks. Anyways. Also,
you wouldn't even get to 15 stacks unless
yeah.
it's a big raid boss. But
also, the damage is going to be applying more commonly, so that's.
Well, it's actually going to apply, so
Yeah.
it's obviously better than not. I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean, has it always been not applying, or I mean, it seemed to me
Don't
that
know.
when Spike came out, the shuriken from the whichever raid it was, that Baba or Strahd, whichever it was from, it seems to me that was people were saying, oh, this spite is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I mean, was that glass shards effect applying back then, and then they did something and it stopped applying, and now this is a fix? I don't
That would be
remember.
my guess. Otherwise, I would think people wouldn't have come to the conclusion that it was the coolest thing since sliced bread in the first place.
Hmm.
But haven't really ever done a thrower build, so not sure. The heroic code of the Traveler has had its armor class reduced from to more appropriately match other armors of its minimum level. Diamonds of Festival Wisdom and Intelligence no longer incorrectly spelled diamond when in stacks larger than 1. Yay. Sapphire of the Crushing Waveguard and Globe of Imperial Blood now enforce their proper minimum levels.
I don't get this.
I believe Crushing Waveguard was the one where Lynnabel found that the minimum level that it applied depended on which color slot you put it in. Or maybe that was a different one. There was some stuff messed up with the minimum levels.
Yeah, I remember her saying that on the board, and I'm still thinking to myself, why would the slot, the color of the slot, matter regarding level? I don't get it.
I mean, I'm sure it's just kind of a weird buggy thing, but they fixed that. So
Shocking. Something buggy with augments.
Yeah, that came up a little bit too in the Ask the Devs coming later.
Okay, cool.
Not the buggy part, but augments. The Korthos landscape and Searing Heights landscape had some cosmetic improvements. Slimes and Sacred Bounty now spit acid occasionally.
Ooh,
that's fun.
Yeah, maybe. I'm curious if that's gonna cascade into other.
Oh sure.
Other slimes.
You guys remember the Diablo 1 video game or whatever PC game? And sometimes you would go down into, I don't know what level it was, I don't know, 14 or whatever, way that fairly far down and there were these dogs that would spit little acid balls at you. And if enough dogs were around you and they spat them all at the same time, it was instant death. I mean, no matter how buffed you were. So I can just see, running into a bunch of slimes and they all spit acid at you at the same time, and you have no acid protection, or inadequate acid protection. You're done. I mean, God help you if that happens to you on hardcore server.
I mean, if you're getting shot by a whole bunch of anything on hardcore server, death is probably inevitable, and
sure,
it's not lag. It's not effort. It's maybe your tactics are suspect.
Yeah.
Let's see. They fixed an issue with assault on the area of the slave lords, or if you clicked on the exit door, it would send you to the exit location for Temple of Elemental Evil. I actually ran into that the other day.
That happens a lot.
Multiple performance issues have been addressed in Soul Survivor. I assume that means they're going to open it back up. I don't know for sure.
Good.
Is it open or is it still closed?
I believe it's closed.
Okay.
Because somebody asked me about it. Because I solicited questions for the Ask the Devs portion And of course, they asked me after I did the recording. But it looks. I assume this means they're going to open it. So, strength scores in the triple digits no longer get cut off in the character sheet UI. Apparently, it had some odd formatting.
It actually, the font was actually
Yeah.
slightly larger. Yeah.
Reaper tree optimizations have been added so certain actions like weapon swapping will be more efficient. Yay.
That sounds like a lag issue there.
Yes. And it actually came up during our conversation with the devs.
I didn't realize it had to do with the Reaper trees. I thought it was, switching weapons. Let's say you have two weapons in them and they have totally different set of filigree, so you use a different weapon depending on the situation. I thought it had to do with applying all the different effects that you would get from the filigree.
So if you look at the combat log, yes, but there's also other actions that would reapply. You can see in the combat log reapplying the Reaper stuff. Some things that
Okay.
I observed were going in and out of rage. Was doing it. Switching your armor was definitely doing it. They'll talk about this more kind of in detail in the nuts and bolts things, but if I remember correctly, it was something along the lines of they redid how your character quote holds on to the Reaper enhancements, so that it will take you longer to load into a quest because it's going to put all that stuff on your character, which it kind of already does anyways. It has to. But that it's going to be done in a way that it will probably take longer to load in, but your character will hold on to that information differently so that other things will not cause it to recalculate it
Oh, cool.
as often. They'll talk about that a little bit more in detail and with better technical expertise than I can paraphrase it. Let's see. Text that still pointed players towards Hall of Heroes to find Gatekeeper NPCs has been updated to the Gatekeeper's Grove. They're also adding a general vendor to the Gatekeeper's Grove, and it will also now be a destination for standard teleport. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We could use a tavern. A couple other things too.
Oh, yeah, sure. The map in the Grove is also now larger and has a prettier border. Some NPCs in the marketplace that would jostle players are now ethereal. I got nothing there. I don't know what that is.
I've
Yeah.
never encountered that. Rude NPCs shoving people.
Auburn the Argonesson now says his action dialogue at the correct time. Doors that are breakable with melee strikes can now be broken with ranged attacks.
That's awesome.
That's a good quality of life improvement right there.
That
Yeah.
has been so annoying. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right? No complaints here. And UI skinning has returned to DDO. They had a link here.
That's cool.
Again, this is one of those things that they'll talk about more in detail and technical expertise and accuracy. The UI stuff, I guess, is not actually available, because they can't make it available until they make that feature live, something to that effect. But they'll talk about it more when we get to the Ask the Devs at the end of our news section. Warlock packs. So we get new Warlock packs. Update 46 Patch 2 has 3 new packed options. These options will be in addition to the ones that are currently available, and they follow all of the same structure as other packs. The new options. Celestial. This is a divine celestial, patron of those who wish to devote themselves to an unconventional method of worship. You will learn to channel the light and air around you as a righteous weapon.
Patrick, can we just take a quick step backward?
Sure.
I just wanted to make a note something about all 3 packs as they are named in general. So the 2 of the 3 packs are named after planes of existence, and generally they're Forgotten Realm or just old time. In the case of Carcerai, um, you know, planes that you would hear from the Greek mythology. I mean, and none of the planes have anything to do with Eberron. So for example, the Celestial Pact that's not named after a plane at all. And the other 2 are named after one as the Abyss. So that's the D&D, the non-Eberron D&D, plane, and the Carcerai, also known as Tartarus. Um, again, that's a classic place in Greek mythology, and also it's also in the D&D, regular D&D universe, for if you will. And I it just bugs me that I mean, why don't they call these after, name these after Ebron, the Ebron plains? So for example, Serania, which is the wide open sky, which is where all the angels are. The abyss should be Maybar, and I'll talk about that later. And the other one, should be like, Rizia, have some sort of Rizian type name into it, like Rizian storm, because Rizia is the plane of ice. So the inconsistency with the naming of the pacts, just irks me.
Yeah, I'm not a lore guy, so I kind of glossed over all of that. My D&D knowledge tends to be much more generalized. So yeah, and like the abyss, I know is in some strains. I mean, it exists in D&D. I'm just not sure which versions and stuff. So, no, it's a good point. I don't know. They sometimes play a little fast and loose with the lore parts of it.
They certainly do,
Which I
and
know
makes
irks people who
it
really get into the lore stuff.
and sure, and Nimvid, I'm sure this is driving Nimvid crazy because he's a lore guy as well. And I just wonder what happened. Who was their lore guy there at SSG? Was that Nobob or somebody who had a little bit more
Knockback,
better
I
handle on the
believe,
lore?
is
Oh,
really,
Knockback.
really, really lore
Yeah, Knockback.
versed.
That's right. Yeah. So what's happened to him? I mean, is he not
No, he
keeping
posted.
an eye on the?
Well, I don't know. There's he and Lynnabel is the one who did the work, and they, I think, work on different parts of the game. I think Knockback is more focused on quests and stuff. Look, there's X amount of hours in the day, and everyone has Y amount of hours of tasks to do, and I don't pretend to know how all that stuff kind of fits in. I don't know.
I just wish they would make more of an effort to get the lore right.
Sure, that's fair. Well, diving back into Celestial, so the base information, the pack die element is electric. Pack save bonus is will, and you must be good to take this pact. And I'm trying to think, do the other ones even allow you to be? I can't remember the alignment restrictions of the other ones off the top of my head.
Abyss, you can't be good, and the Carcerai has no restriction whatsoever.
No, I was talking about the Fiend, Great Old One, and Fae.
Oh, okay. Well, so Fiend, you can't be good,
Right.
and Great Old One, you have to be chaotic, or maybe just not lawful.
Right. And yeah, and I don't know that the what do you call it,
Fae.
the Sonic one, the Fey one might have you can't be lawful.
Anyways,
yeah, but there are alignment restrictions on the other ones.
Celestial is you must be good. Their spells are Bless, Soundburst, Magic Circle against Evil, Prayer, Holy Aura, and Freedom of Movement. Their level 6 special ability is Celestial Attunement, which is +5 PRR and +1 to saves.
Weak.
They're all kind of weak at that
seriously,
level.
5 PRR and +1 to saves? Are you kidding me?
Well, look, it is level 6.
It's level 6, yeah. So nobody's going to be doing level 2 to get a little, a tiny little dip for, if you're going to commit at least 6 levels. I mean, it should be like maybe like 10 PRR and +2 to saves. I mean,
they're all
seems a
pretty
little bit more
low
reasonable.
too, though. So
yeah, and I'm going to complain about those too. Absolutely.
I mean, when you look at what the other ones have, the Great Old One was the +5 MRR and +25% fort. Dark One's luck was +2 to all saves. Dark Delirium was always my favorite, though. That was the one that had the days with, because that was actually really useful as a crowd control at level 6.
Sure.
But
the level 15 ability, Ameliorate. It's an attempt to obliterate an undead or severely weaken any non-undead foe. Undead must succeed on a will save or be destroyed. the save is the same as all the other ones, which has been upped to 15 instead of 10. Undead who fail to save or enemies who are not undead are terrorized and have their magic resistance rating reduced by 10. I think it's supposed to be undead who make this save, or enemies who are not undead.
No, if the undead makes the save, they're dead.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Fails to
Undead who
Or
fails
fails
this
to.
save have their MRR reduced.
And they made the change from 6 seconds to 15 seconds, or at least
Right.
Lynnabel posted
Yep.
about the change.
The Abyss.
Hang on, Patrick. Let's take one little quick step back.
Sure.
I want to talk about, because this was a thing in the thread about the new Warlock packs. People were, complaining. I wouldn't say complaining, but they were suggesting that the save be changed from the electric damage part of the pack be changed from a will save to something like a reflex save or a fort save. And and I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're going to think about it in terms of a Sorc doing electric damage, or an Arcano technician, an artificer Arcano technician doing electric damage, doing their damage being a reflex save or a fort save, yeah, that would make sense. Change the pack to one of those other two. But if you do that, then you might as well just go ahead and play, and if your goal is to do a lot of electricity damage, then just go play an electric Sorc or an Arcano technician, because they do electric damage way better anyway.
Mhm.
So, the reason why it's a will save, I think, at least my opinion anyway, is that you'd at least make it attractive to play a Celestial Pact Warlock, because, that will save for electric damage is interesting, at least, and makes me think, hey, this might be a good pack to play.
I think the other thing they did here was they have one pact with each of the different saves. So you've got a
Yes.
will, a fort, and a reflex, and that's the same as the original 3. One was reflex, one was will, one was fort. So I think they're
Yeah.
trying for a little bit of balance there too, rather than having 2 reflexes and a fort in this set. I could be wrong. I don't.
Good
No,
observation there.
I think it
didn't
is.
notice that.
When
Yeah.
you're making, they want people to make meaningful choices. So the idea being that here that it's not just the damage, it's how that damages the defense to that damage too.
Sure.
Let's see. So the Abyss pact die element is negative. Pact save is Fortitude. The alignment restriction is you must not be good. The bonus spells are Mage Armor, Spawn Screen, Halt Undead, Death Aura, Symbol of Pain. It was Energy Drain, and they changed it to Rend the Soul, and which is a big change.
Yeah.
That might make it the most powerful level 6 spell, because that's a level 9 spell for wizards and stuff. That's significant. So it's gonna allow this one to do a lot more damage than I think some of the other versions can do. The level 6 ability is Unhallowed Flesh, which is +5 PRR and MRR.
Again, weak.
Again, level 6. Warlock level 15 special ability, Shroud Yourself in the Abyss, which will grant you an unholy power at a cost. You become undead. So you get the 100% critical hit resistance, 50% healing from positive energy, can be healed by negative energy, and are considered undead rather than your original type. This will also now, they adjusted it to also grant +2 charisma, +10 negative healing amplification, and +10 negative spell power. So an alternative way that you could play an undead. I am particularly interested to see how this plays with Warlock tanks, because you could make an undead Warlock tank now, which could be kind of interesting, and a lot of their tankiness features add temporary hit points, so the positive energy penalty won't impact them as much. So I think that's kind of an intriguing way that you could take this.
Here's another something that's intriguing that somebody in the Lava Divers Discord chat said. Well, wouldn't it be interesting if you could do Enlightened Spirit, with the aura that pulses, and you had the Abyss Pact, or it should be a Maybar Pact, but whatever. it's- and so you're pulsing, not only are you pulsing light damage, but you're also pulsing negative damage. Wouldn't that be cool if you were undead and you were pulsing and it would heal you, give you
Oh,
a,
sure.
a shot of healing every 1.5 seconds or whatever you know the the frequency of the pulse is. That would be cool. That would be really helpful for a warlock tank.
Yeah. They do get Death Aura as one of their spells, which would help there. But yeah, that I don't know how that'll work. That would be interesting. Sure. I like where that's going. That could really make this kind of tanky-ish. This would be a really good tanky version.
And Benton, I'm sure, would be just in heaven.
Nah, Warlocks are so old news. He's not gonna put no.
It's not the flavor of the month anymore. So.
No, he's always been a little upset that Warlocks have gone downhill a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So we're ready to talk about Carcery Storm? I think I'm pronouncing that right. Patron is a demon entity from the realm of Carcery, otherwise known as Tartarus. Yeah, they say it, otherwise known as Tartarus there. The bitter cold and freezing winds.
Rizia. I mean,
Yeah.
it's again perfect opportunity to
do
infuse more
okay.
Eberron lore into the game, and they just gloss right over it.
Counterpoint. Does Ricia have demonic entities?
Yes.
Okay.
And here's the thing, and if here we're gonna get real obscure since you're bringing up more lore related stuff. In Tartarus, the big thing wasn't it was cold, but that wasn't the big bad awful thing about Tartarus and Carcery. It was the constant howling winds that drove people insane. It was the winds that was a problem in Tartarus, not the cold. So again, poor lore choice here. Absolutely
Sure.
poor lore choice.
I'll be honest, most of my Greek lore and mythology at this point is from the Percy Jackson series, the Rick Riordan series. I did study it back in the day, but it's it's stuff that you studied back in high school and middle school and
Sure.
stuff. It fades a lot. Good books. I enjoy them. It's always fun. I mean, I love how they kind of tie it into the modern world. So, anyways,
good series.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the movies didn't do it justice.
They're talking about a Netflix series.
That'd be great.
Or wait, no, that might be a lie. Disney Plus? I don't know. There's talk about a series coming on one of the streams. I think it's Disney Plus, but anyways, after that rabbit hole, the packed dice here is cold. Save bonus is reflex. No alignment restriction here. Bonus spells are Merfolk's Blessing, Gust of Wind. They swapped Sleet Storm for Creeping Cold. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. That was a good switch.
Sleet Storm has one useful place to cast it on, and that's when there's a bunch of eyeballs around. Ice Storm, Nyx Batting Cold, and Greater Creeping Cold. That means they get 3 cold dots here. So
they don't step on each other. That's awesome.
This is by far the best set of spells of any of these new packs. Sure.
Other than Rend the Soul.
Well, yeah.
I mean, the Abyss one, they do get Halt Undead can be useful. Death Aura and Rend the Soul are going to be really useful in that build type. But yeah, I think Creeping Cold, Ice Storm, Biting Cold, and Greater Creeping Cold. I mean, that's just go to town with the cold damage.
Agreed.
The level 6 ability, Frozen Footsteps, plus 10% cold absorption.
Meh.
Absolute Zeros or level 15 ability. Attempt to lock a single enemy in ice permanently. They must succeed on a will save or forever be trapped in solid ice. And enemies made of fire will instead be destroyed with no save. Forever? Like, they don't get another save?
No.
Interesting.
That's nice.
And it doesn't wear off. They're just there. And so that's cool. And it does. And then when you're frozen, you don't get adamantine, like the other things that turn you like into ice where they would give you adamantine DR. You don't have that here. So this is by far the best level 15 ability of all the 3 packs. This is the coolest, and it's really making me start to think about wanting to do this cold pact
Yeah,
because it's really cool. I would really like to try it.
I might have to try this because that's actually in a lot of ways actually better than Hurl Through Hell, because if they're forever trapped in solid ice and I'm in a really long boss fight where if I kill it, it respawns. There's some potential here. I bet you they end up changing
Yeah.
this later.
Oh God, I hope not. It's such a cool ability. Yeah, but
I agree.
but you know what, they might, because they screwed me on everything is nothing, and they're gonna screw the cold using sword. Rather, what do you call it? Warlocks on this too. You're probably right. They'll probably do
I
that.
hope if they do change it, perhaps a more agreeable change would be to, like, after a minute they get another save, and if they make the save, I don't know. We'll see. Ready to talk about random loot? They're changing random loot.
Sure.
The random loot system has been improved. And I'll preface this by saying again, like we talked about this a little more in detail with the Ask the Devs, which will be when we're done with the news section here. The random loot system has been improved. Several new and returning single enhancements have returned at certain random loot options, and several less usable and bugged options, such as damaging guards, have been removed from the drop tables. So it didn't work; they got rid of it.
Good.
Finally.
Yeah.
Good decision.
Guards were always kind of a waste of space, I thought. Anyways, they never did enough
cheesy. They didn't
damage.
do nearly enough damage to
Yeah.
to justify having them.
They were fine back in like 2007, 2008 time range, but it's been a decade or more.
They would need to do some serious scaling with power of some kind, but then, like, do you make it scale with spell power? At which point, like, casters, people with high spell power don't want to wear guards because they don't want to get hit in the first place.
And you scale it like you do all the damage. The higher the crafting shard is, the higher level the crafting shard is, the more damage it does.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't work anyways, so.
Nope.
Rare and special prefixes. 90 new and returning special enhancements have returned to random loot. These special enhancements contain a third or fourth, if the item is above level 10, enhancement, bringing the maximum number of enhancements to random loot item to 4. So we actually had this for a brief period of time, and it went away. So those are coming back, and there's some new ones coming back.
With the 1,000 suns, like
Yeah.
something of a 1,000 suns. That was always the coolest one, and I'm glad we'll see it again.
They are also going to change these special prefixes. Will display a teal border on the item to help them visually contrast with other items. Teal borders are now reserved for items with a rare special prefix enhancement, and as a result, items that have rolled higher in item quality, masterful craftsmanship, no longer display this border. I don't know why they should come out with a new color border, but whatever.
Yay.
Caster quarterstaffs have their own set of random loot adjustments and special enhancements, aiming to make a quarterstaff as a spellcaster more of an attractive option. The maximum number of enhancements on a caster quarterstaff is now 6, up from 3. Really, what they're trying to do here is make it so that it is, instead of just making you essentially have 2 sticks in your hand, so you get 6 enhancements, a quarterstaff can now have the same number as both. That's kind of what's going on here.
I just wonder how useful that these are going to be, because now that you have 6 enhancements, and I think it's supposed to be random, you're not going to really get much of any theme,
No,
like
it's
a
not.
fiery
Yeah.
quarterstaff or something. So will people really just be looking for these things just for the materials that they happen to be made of now?
I mean,
I don't know.
I don't think it's any different. I don't think it's any different from the standpoint that if you're holding 2 sticks in your hand, you're 2 random sticks. You're still looking for the random alignment, right? So
I think it's just easier to find 2 sticks that match versus 1 quarterstaff with 6 effects that are all going to be working. It'll
Yeah.
be tough. But I think if you hit the jackpot and you get 6 that work together, it's really nice.
Yeah.
I think it's a possibility. I've long been a champion of quarterstaffs for casters should be more of a thing, and both in named loot and in random loot, I'd like
Yeah.
to see that be something, because to me, I've never seen a reason to carry a quarterstaff going back years and years and years.
The only one that I even consider doing right now is that reflection of wave.
Yeah. Mhm.
I mean, that one's really good.
Sure.
Twilight had a moment for a while there when
Yeah.
Motu was around, but I think that's the last time I really was excited about a quarterstaff on a caster.
Yeah, that's fair. Minimum level of loot. This is a big change. When you open chests and content or complete quests, the level of random loot you roll will now exactly match the instance level of the content you are completing. So, if you are level 3 dungeon on Elite, you will get level 5 loot and no higher. I don't want to steal all the thunder from the Asheras. We did talk about this. Some of this does come from hardcore, but it's also kind of been a long-standing point of unhappiness for the devs that you can run content and you get stuff that you can't immediately put on. You have to wait until you get higher levels. So they're rectifying that.
Yeah, I've always found that to be negative too.
Yeah, I haven't run into anyone who's complained about it. I'm sure there's people on the forums who don't like it, but I think this is a better system. With this, let's talk about Jewels of Fortune and Greater Dragon Mark of Finding. So items and effects that previously increased the minimum level random loot, such as the Greater Dragon Mark of Finding, now increase the quality of that random loot instead. This would be essentially what a treasure hunter elixir does. Jewels of Fortune are being sunsetted. They are no longer available in-game and in the DDO store, and in their place where they were available in-game, you will find treasure hunter elixirs of the same magnitude instead. Unused Jewels of Fortune can be traded in for 2 of the same magnitude treasure hunter's elixir from the House Cannith Crafting Hall, same place you trade in spare tomes for ingredients. Currently consumed Jewel of Fortune will provide the same effect as equivalent rarity of treasure hunter's elixir when this patch goes live. I'm going to steal a little bit of thunder from what we talked about with Ask the Devs, because I think this is important for people to hear. If you have a Jewel of Fortune on your character when this patch goes live, it will be converted to a treasure hunter elixir version of that same kind of buff. If you also have a treasure hunter elixir, one of the 2 will take precedence, and you will only see one of the 2, but the other one will take precedence when the first one expires. So it may look like you have lost that buff, but it is supposed to still be there in the background. You just won't see it. Much like if you drink in an XP elixir that's a higher value, it suppresses the lower value one. It doesn't tick away, but the bigger one takes effect. That's what's supposed to happen here.
That's good.
Yeah.
I was worried we were going to lose those.
Yeah, I'm sure there's people out there that have, and I'm sure several in our guild that have drunk 100 hours worth of the Jewels of Fortune treasure hunter elixirs that they have. So
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there would be an advantage to, just to consume the huge Jewels of Fortune now before this thing takes effect. Would there be an advantage
no.
to doing that? No?
I would
Okay.
say no, because
Yeah.
you're going to get 2 treasure hunter elixirs.
Okay.
So if you drink it now, you're probably only getting 1. If you wait, you're probably getting 2.
Yeah, that was my take too.
I'm not exactly sure. And again, they'll talk about this a little bit more in detail. They don't want to make it worse for you. That's the big key. You should come out ahead. That's the goal.
Yeah. I checked the timing on the wiki on these in terms of how many hours you get, and the 2 for 1 is definitely the better deal. You're going to get double the amount of time of coverage.
Of course, I'm gonna have double the number of things to use, so I'm gonna have to start chugging these things a lot more than I have been.
Yeah.
Let's see. Augment slots. Items found in random loot now have a small chance to drop with a second augment slot. Cool.
That's cool.
Good.
Yeah.
That's a
That's
good
been
change.
gone. I like that coming back.
Material types. Armors and shields can once again drop with alternate material types, adamantine, flame touch iron, and mithril, as well as a new armor shield material type silver, which grants a save bonus against undead. Armors and shields with alternative material types will retain those types when keyed for Cannith crafting, just like weapons do. I did not ask, but I'm assuming mithril is going to still lower the tier of armor, and thus you will still kind of quote lose the PRR and MRR value of that armor.
Hopefully not. That would be negative.
Yeah, I don't. Well, look, here's the thing: they're not gonna let you wear medium mithril armor as light armor and get around the MRR cap. As much as I would like that to be an option, I think they're pretty set in their ways about keeping the MRR cap tied to that. Is the armor class.
Yeah.
Certain weapons and random loots can now drop with non-standard material types, such as adamantine or silver. They specifically called out quarterstaffs, crossbows, clubs, and great clubs. I guess because they don't currently. And also, blue shine is coming back. They're going to be removing blue shine from Kenneth crafting and instead adding it to the alternate material types for all metal melee weapons. If you acquire one of these weapons, keying it will be the same. The current Kenneth crafting blue shine will continue to be wiped when processed, so you can rekey a weapon that's already been crafted without getting it stuck there. But blue shine will not be available to re-add. However, blue shine weapons are immune to rust damage, such as durability damage from oozes. So craft your own Muckbane.
Yeah, you can make two-handed ooze beaters now, like with light
Yeah.
damage and oozebane on it. I mean,
Yeah,
That's nice.
that's going to be awesome.
yeah. File that on the wish list for crafting. That's gonna be great. Sign me up. Let's see. Also, she's gonna be raising the chance for a caster Kenneth to Yahtzee out significantly from the rate shown in this preview. Also, a bug was removed from the broken guards to remove the bugged and broken guards from Kenneth's crafting, so you shouldn't be able to get guards anywhere. There you go.
Hang on 1 second. What does that mean? Raising the chance for a caster quarterstaff to Yahtzee out significantly
To get the 6 effects.
Oh, okay. I see.
Which, if we're gonna go down a lore run, Yahtzee is 5, not 6. So
there you go.
I guess Lynnabel doesn't play Yahtzee very often.
I mean, I don't think that there's another one that you could use though. There's not one for 6 that I know of.
No.
Bonus days. Let's try to cruise through some of this stuff so we get to the Ask the Devs here. Bonus days brings you a buddy bonus, 5% XP for every member in your party or raid group through May 25th for Memorial Day. The store news, final weekend to get auto boxes. You can get those through May 25th in all 3 varieties. The Hack and Stash sale is 20% off of Slayer Boost, Loot Boost, and Treasure Hunter elixirs. I mean, I guess you could buy some jewels and turn them in 2-to-1 for feature.
Yeah, why?
I guess.
Yeah, I guess you could.
The weekly coupon is a Wand of Magic Missile. You can get the coupon code Fire Missiles through May 28th. That will bring us to community news. The 383rd Chronicle. The Hoarder is a new desktop utility for loot. You can check that out. I looked at that briefly. My understanding is it's basically like look at your loot from the like without having to be in the game and kind of organize it and stuff, and also be able to kind of piecemeal what you have together, and kind of like do gear Tetris with what you have from this. That sounds really cool. Axel did a DDO cover. I believe he did covered the Evening Star music. You want to check that out. Massively OP finds the Gatekeepers. Guild Hall for the week. Several players are currently looking for Guild Call Home. So if you're looking to recruit people, you can check out the forums. Little reverse one there. All right. Listen carefully. Here's the comment for the week. An airship is traveling east at 40 miles per hour. Another airship is traveling west at 80 miles per hour. Between them, a player character at maximum coverance is falling at 60 miles per hour. What is the player character wearing?
The Mighty Servant of Luke O. That's a very old AD&D.
Wow, that's yeah. That's a poll. My answer is not featherfall and full plate. If you're falling at 60 miles an hour, that's a pretty high terminal velocity. And no, I don't know what the terminal velocity is for a person off the top of my head.
122 miles an hour.
There we go. I don't know, maybe they are wearing a little bit of featherfall or something.
Yeah, maybe. Or they're monks or something.
Yeah, something. Ash, you got a clever one here?
I do not. There's too much math in that for me. I just had to homeschool 2 kids for the last 3 months. I'm done with those kind of problems. There's an old movie from the 80s where this kid's trying to get into college, and they have these 2 characters, A and B, who go through different scenarios like this, and he keeps blowing them up because he gets annoyed with them. So
Sure.
that's how I feel about this. I think the movie's name is actually How I Got into College. I could be wrong, though. Anyways.
Let's see. DDOcast or Fansite News. We got a shout out for our post-mortem for the second season of Hardcore last week. DDO Stream is your first stop to find DDO on Twitch. This week, D&D Night finds a King of the Hill. That's a special D&D night I did with a bunch of folks. 12 characters, all vying for control of a hill. It was chaotic and a lot of fun.
Good.
DDOPL fights pirates, and Bard Life plays with a full stream deck. Also on Twitch, Kiwi Hana ran R4s, Cetus DDO shows the DPS, and Nimvin brings the lobies. Over on YouTube, Sherman's Gaming does a Let's Play. That is not related to me. Caffeine Injected plays a paladin, and Strimtom figures out what crossbow is best. And again, I think there's like four of those groups are I don't think I've seen in Fansite news before. So more people playing.
Bunch of new streamers.
Yeah,
That's great.
Grimoire has an alchemical romance, so you can check that out. That blog post out.
I'm happy for him.
All quests and raids and adventure areas remain free through May. I have heard that there may be some future news regarding that. I don't have any details, but there you go. I know it's working out really well. A lot of people are playing, so that's great. Hardcore Season 2 is having their after party, except you still can't transfer characters off of the
Any
world.
update?
So that's a heck of a party.
No, I haven't heard any updates on it. I know they're working on it. My understanding is, based on what I read, is that they're going to extend the transfer off time window once they get it figured out. But I think they're trying to figure out what's going on. And
Hey, more dice rolls for me then.
yeah, right. I think the big worry there is don't mess up transfers for other servers at the same time you're figuring that out too. So there's probably going to be a lot of slow and deliberate work there, because somebody transferring to a new server and then suddenly having no experience, no past lives, no gear, like this would be catastrophically bad. So they don't want to do that.
Oh yeah.
There you go. That's the community news. Don't forget to check out D&D Night on DDO Stream on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, twitch.tv/DDO Stream. Arkat and I are still playing DDO Splat. That's been back the last couple weeks. Although we may need to take this week off depending on how some meetings fall for me. But we're just kind of playing and having fun. And we've been doing R5. We've been dying a lot. It's been an absolute blast for me.
Yes, it's been fun.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
All right, so we're going to close out the news portion. We're going to bring you the Ask the Devs here. So thanks for listening to the show. You guys have anything you want to plug before we head out?
We're looking for a sixth person, I think, for Kasplat. So
I think Chance is going to be coming back soon.
Oh, she is? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Well, never mind then.
Let's see. Thanks to my guests here today, Arkat and Asheras, for joining me for 600. Thanks to all the people who have contributed to DDOcast hey, 600 shows is amazing. This show has been going for, 13, 14 years. So it's been going a long time, and a lot of people have been part of that, including the people that listen. You guys are the reason why this still happens. So we really appreciate that. Thanks also to Standing Stone Games for their support. and for doing the Ask the Devs, and to Wizards of the Coast for letting Standing Stone Games make this great game that we love playing, and to Cyberus for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or if you'd like to be featured on our website, you can email us, DDOCast@gmail.com as well. If you have a DDO-themed webpage or you Twitch DDO, we'd be happy to do that for you. You can hit us up at DDOCast.com for show notes, MP3s, calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff. And if you want to be a part of the show, or if you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, leave a comment, or you can email us at DDOCast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on social media for the latest cast updates. At DDOCast is the best place. So we're going to jump into the Ask the Devs portion. So we're going to be talking. Well, this is it is pre-recorded, so I'll be watching the chat, but I can't ask the questions because this is not live. But we hope you really enjoy it. Should be a lot of fun. Production note: the audio quality is not as great as I would like it to be. I'm sure everyone is much more familiar at this point with the pitfalls of Zoom meetings and such, and how audio can be kind of a challenge there. But hope you really enjoy it. Stay tuned. All right, hello and welcome to another episode of Ask the Devs. I'm your host, Patrick. We've got a full house of SSG folks here with us today, and we'll start by introducing them all. And we'll just kind of go around the horn and the screen, and we'll start with Cordovan.
Hey, how's it going? I'm community manager Cordovan here for Dungeons & Dragons Online. Nice to be here. I did the first 190 episodes of this show, and I've been way outpaced by both you and Siegfried over the years.
Yeah, fun fact, this is my 300th show.
Nice.
So, in episode 600, and we thought, hey, Ask the Devs is a great way to celebrate this because I don't have to plan anything special. I'm lazy. Cocoamajobo, we'll go to you next.
Hi. I'm Corey Knowles. I'm the associate producer of DDO. I've been here for far less than 300 episodes of DDOcast. I think I was on one, and I'm here again, telling you about the things.
We're happy to have you. We also have Torc.
Hey, I'm Brent Walton, also known as Torc. I do content and system designs. I've been here a long time.
Yeah. Infamously known as the designer for The Pit, among other things.
Among other things.
And we also have Lynnabel.
Hi, I'm a systems designer for DDO. I've been on DDOcast some number of times. It's less than 10, but more than one.
And we also have Flimsyfirewood.
Hi, sorry, no video. My name is Ilya Bosov. I'm a content designer for DDO. I've been on DDOcast before at least a couple times, I think.
Yeah. Well, welcome back, everybody. So we just want to do, this is not necessarily a specific topic, but there's a lot of stuff we get to talk about. First, I just want to say hi. How's everyone doing? How do you like your new offices at home?
Things are actually pretty good here. I think, I've got it maybe a little easier than some of our world builders in that because they have a little more advanced tools that they need to remote desktop into. But as far as what I'm doing, it's actually pretty easy. I kind of like this work from home thing. It saves me a lot of commute time.
Yeah, I'm the place I'm at right now has a dishwasher, and that's great. It's just an improvement. It's made me realize that I would live in a place with a dishwasher. If it were literally on fire, it would still be preferable to living in a place without a dishwasher. But not having a commute's pretty nice, and it's not too bad.
I miss people.
Has anyone taught their kids how to build DDO dungeons yet as homeschooling projects?
I think that would be really hard.
Thank you for this wonderful idea.
Ooh, we've had to spend more time just teaching them algebra since they can actually go to school and do it there than teaching them how to build dungeons.
Yeah.
But I know more algebra.
All right. Well, wanted to start the real fun stuff with let's talk about Hardcore Season 2. We just had the second season of Hardcore wrap last week week before or somewhere in there. And in season 1, there was a bunch of changes that came kind of out of that. Some changes to quests and kind of tweaking some stuff. And you had a bunch of data. So I'm curious, what did we learn, or what did you guys learn from Hardcore Season 2, and what might we see come from that?
I mean,
gonna-
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it if you want to. That sounds good. I was just going to say, I guess just to soft talk into this a little bit, that I think we learned a lot from Hardcore Season 1, and Season 2 was really an iteration on some of the things we learned on Season 1. I can't think of like the one thing that we've picked up from Season 2 so far, but maybe someone else will kind of know,
I mean,
will have a better answer.
One of the things that hardcore seasons really do is they shine a light on like larger chunks of our game that a lot of very enfranchised players who have very established characters tend to skip over. For example, random loot. And in this particular case, that's actually part of why we decided to make that a larger project that would then preempt any hardcore season 3 that would come up. So when you're playing on live servers and you have all your named loot and you've been playing for a lot of years, it's going to be very difficult to get someone to really care about like a random chest. And it's honestly kind of okay. But when you're, starting from scratch with a whole bunch of different people, we realized that like there's some pretty serious flaws in how we had set up random loot as a whole. And so from there, we were able to examine the entire system and put together a set of changes that are mostly based on people's feedback from, returning players or established players who, for the first time, have to care about what they pull out of chests.
I'm guessing this is probably one of the impetuses to the level of loot will match the level of dungeon and not be higher.
Yes, well, that's actually been on a hit list for a very long time.
Many people on the team have been trying to destroy that awful thing for the entire time I've been here. Everyone hates it. Hates the possibility that you walk into a quest on on level 16 CR and you get level 17, level 18 loot that you cannot actually equip. It's just awful. And having effects that boost the minimum level of the item that mean it's just further away before you can use it, but not actually increasing the quality once you get to it. It was just dumb. And so we have resolved that in theory in the future.
Yeah, the idea that there would be weekend events that would actively make the play experience markedly worse was a little strange.
In most portions of the game. At cap level, that would it did have a solid use in that it raised the effect value without actually going past the cap min level. But other than that, in every other portion of the game, it was useless.
Yeah. I think anecdotally, the community probably learned that with our additional messaging on death, that everyone's kind of anecdotally known that traps were one of the deadliest things in DDO. But I think Hardcore Season 2 clearly underscored that is the case.
Yeah, I tried to run a point man tank on a warlock tank, which was kind of weird. It was neat, but it didn't have spot, and I didn't make it past level 10. So,
I'll tell you,
remember where all the traps.
The spot thing on a tank I found to be less than helpful because at a certain point I seem to stop spotting traps.
Yeah, if you don't have the trap finding feat, there's actually an upper limit to the DC that's available. Yep. I believe Flimsyfirewood actually bribed me in real life in order to make that feat more accessible. So we'll see,
That'd be interesting.
No comment.
I will also probably be willing to pitch into that bribe.
If you can find some dice, yes, the cat. I'll do anything.
So what
do you do?
What might we expect for season 3?
Well, we can't talk about everything yet, but we can talk about is the guest host will be an Archon, as opposed to how we had Harry or Tracos as the last guest host, and that the rewards are celestial based, which are really nice. And
we can say that we are looking at slight alterations to the base formula, at least as an experiment for the one season. Maybe it'll carry on into future seasons if they occur. But we're not able to go into exactly what we're thinking about for that experiment right now because we have to work out the details.
Yeah, we will mechanically change stuff. Well, that's part of the fun of each season is that something is different. Like we changed the champions last season, and this coming season we'll be changing something else.
Any chance that those champions might find their way into the live worlds?
I felt there were a few that were iteratively more interesting than some of the champions we have, and it's possible we might experiment with champions, changing states on the live server. That's definitely something that could potentially happen.
I will say on the champions in hardcore, I did not appreciate being turned into gold with a dot effect at the same time. That was not very nice.
Yeah, only because your party members couldn't sell you, right?
Right. That's a remove curse, I think, right? Like that's the have the remove curse potion ready and drink or gold. How do you look like a gold statue on a improv video call? I don't know how to do that here.
I don't know. So next I'd like to talk about the Feywild. We know that this is coming up. What can you tell us about the Feywild expansion that's coming up?
So obviously we're not in a position to talk about everything that's going to occur with the Feywild expansion, but we've already announced it. We've already announced a good number of features, and so obviously on the system side of stuff, as with our previous two expansions, we are in fact our previous two SSG expansions, we're looking at adding a new race and a new iconic race to go along with it. And this time around, because shifters are Eberron, native to Eberron, and also native to the Feywild, we wanted to go with them, and we haven't had a nice the primal bestial kind of race in a while. And so on the non-iconic side, we wanted to shifters don't fully transform into a creature, into a beast, but what they do is they take on the aspects of certain beasts. And so what we're trying to hook those into mechanically is to base their aspect shifting into something similar to the base of Barbarian Rage, but to flavor what the actual mechanical benefits of those are based around the whatever aspect of creature that you are choosing to go down that path. Just like you can go down different paths for your ASMRs or your tieflings, you choose your racial variant essentially. You're going to be able to do the same thing with shifters, and so you'll get these rages that are technically rages, but are you're shifting into your animalistic form. You might have a little bit of a visual indicator, and you have some buffs associated with your beast. And in addition, we're probably going to do these cool howl things that allow you to invigorate your allies at the same time you're terrifying and instilling fear and debuffs on your enemies around you. And for the iconic, what we really wanted to do was make a barbarian that uses hand wraps so that you can claw your enemies to death in order to make a more primal bestial version of the build archetype for the weapon type of hand wraps, which are until this point exclusive essentially to inviolableness to monks. And so it's not really intended to be an addition to monks. It's not specifically we want you to have hand wrap barbarians that are also good monks. We want an alternate build type that can use the weapon type, so we can really build out the meta.
I would just kind of add a little bit of an overview for those who may be a little less familiar with Feywild, that it is really a plane that can be linked a little bit to almost like a fairy tale style setting. It's a little more elven in nature, things like that. There will be unicorns, pixies, red caps, nymphs in the setting as a whole. I'm not saying we're bringing all that stuff to the game, but things like that. Also things like displacer beasts, blink dogs, a couple of things you might find over in the Feywild. So, you'll see things like Archfey. Just kind of it's going to be a major storyline similar to the way Ravenloft was and Sharn was. And I would say scope also, we can't talk about numbers in terms of quests and that sort of thing, but it'll be similar in scope to our previous SSG expansions.
I'm excited about Displacer Beasts. This sounds fun. I'm not so sure about the Blink Dogs.
Blink Dogs are great.
Yeah.
Like bearded devils, except dogs.
Yeah, they're almost the same thing, Brent. They're almost just some minor cosmetic differences.
I mean, I was envisioning something or fearing something more along the lines of a phase spider as a dog. But that
Something like that.
I mean, every time we're going into an expansion, because an expansion allows us the resources to put together, a plethora of new assets and new monster types. Part of what we're trying to do is grab iconic monsters from the place that we're going to, but also on the other hand, we want to use that opportunity to create as many iconic and D&D creatures as we can, so that we can use them in future content. And so things like Displacer Beasts, like it's not like a thing that you overly associate with the Feywild, but it exists in the Feywild, and we want Displacer Beasts, so we're making them now. We're going to use them in this content, and then we have them, and it'll be great.
And we do have some some things specific to Feywild as well that are going to be in there.
Yeah. Red caps, unicorns,
So I want to move on to update 46. Patch 2 is coming. There's a couple of things in there. One is some new Warlock packs. So just kind of wanted to touch on that. Why? What's the goal with bringing out Warlock packs? And what kind of led into this?
Warlock as a whole has always been a very strong, very solid class that I feel like has a lot of really good design behind it. And these are not so much meant to be like, the next hottest, best thing as a whole, but like, it seemed pretty fun. Like, it seems like, open up some more elemental options, open up some interesting multi-class. And like, I feel like it would allow some more, interesting role play or character thematic opportunities. We got some really, really good visuals for them. Like, our VFX artists on this did a really great job. I think the Negative Pact, the Abyss Pact, is actually it came out really, really wonderful. And I feel like it just opens up a whole bunch more builds. Warlock as a whole has all been, thematically is about, you trade just a little bit of yourself for that cool power, and allowing yourself to pick different types of power and make cool new activated abilities. It seemed like now could possibly be that time.
Originally as well, we had started with either really unaligned packs or packs that were non-lawful in nature. And one of the new packs here allows you to be specifically lawful as a warlock, which is kind of an interesting thematic choice as well.
Yeah, the Celestial Pact is, I actually would say, very popular in pen and paper, or at the very least, a lot of the warlocks that I've played with in pen and paper have all really liked the Celestial Pact. And I just, it seems like a cool opportunity, and I could, bring that flavor and that fun to DDO.
Got to pick a boss. I mean, a lot of the other packs.
Yeah, like, the Celestials feels like it would be really nice compared to like talking to like a demon or a devil. Like, Celestial seems like they're not gonna, kill you. Like, they're just having a good time.
Then the other big thing coming with the new update is random loot, which we kind of touched on a little bit, kind of where some of that's coming from. But maybe we could talk a little bit more about some goals that you have for it. Maybe about some of the new and returning special prefixes, and kind of expand on what players can expect to see.
Yeah, so random loot as a whole, the overall goals with this system were to give back a lot of sense of mystery with the experience of opening up chests and really just not knowing what you could possibly find. There's been a lot of really cool things in DDO's history that like the old split prefixes back in update 14 and 15 that were introduced, and I feel like those cool prefixes, those are still out there. Like, you can, if people have really old loot gen, they can still see them. And I feel like people are really attached to like some of the really evocative nature of those names, those themes. And so part of the impetus for going back to this and adding them back in was just like, what if random loot were really cool, Like, what if you could find really cool options that are just like they look cool and they do cool things and they'd have a cool border, and it would just like a Sun's Fury sword just sounds cooler than flaming. And the idea that could be out there, I feel like adds a lot of excitement to just like playing through DDO. There's a whole bunch of bugs we really wanted to fix that were only really fixable through a deep dive too. Like there's just a lot of little things that kind of built up over time. And so we decided that it was in our best interest to just say, let's go through and think, what would players actually want out of a random loot thing, and just go through and do all of it. So let's clean up the material types. Let's bring back the old material types. Let's fix all these bugs, and let's add all this new stuff and all this returning stuff in there. And so at the end of the day, players end up with just a whole bunch more of exciting stuff they could possibly find. And we get to clean out a whole bunch of bug stuff and bring back a whole bunch of returning stuff that players would be happy to see again. And there's some other stuff. There's a lot of things in there that tie in with Cannith crafting, like the introduction of the new material types like silver and blue shine, mean that now it's possible to make a weapon that has both Oozebane and blue shine on it, unlike before. And you can find mithril shields again. You can find things with dual augment slots. And I just hope that at the end of this, there's just a lot more players are encouraged to go out and say, like, well, I might as well go for that optional chest because, like, it is, one more piece of random loot, and that could be the one, And
it also, as we were talking earlier, has to do with scaling as well. We were able to deal with the long-standing issue of what drops where and when as part of this that, I think people should dig.
Yeah, as part of this, I added in a lot of different breakpoints at levels, especially in weapons, so that over time, players who are looking at random loot, the weapons can get more complex and add more things as they go on. Right now, there's a split at level 10 that prevents things that would drop with like a +0. Like there's still some bugs that I have hopefully cleaned the last up of. But like if you remember back when random loot was changed before, you could find things like with +0 assassinate. And so going back and cleaning up the rest of that, I added in more breakpoints so that over time, as you go up, like for like now at like starting at level 7, you can find things with like smiting or disruption again, and then like it eventually brings back like tidal and draining and feeding and all these cool, more complex things that the prefixes. Especially the special ones get more and more complex as you go higher up. So over time, as a character levels, not only does the loot get better, but it also gets more exciting.
And I'm guessing there may have also been some interest in doing a little prep work for a level increase as well with some of the loot changes.
Interestingly enough, random loot already scales up to level 50. Whoever did this before, no worries, actually did a lot of extra work that I'm very thankful for. And so that is already set up. I was very pleasantly surprised because yes, part of this was going back and saying like, well, we are planning a level cap increase. Someone should probably figure out whether or not this is going to break all the loot in the game. And I was really bracing myself for the worst, but I was pleasantly surprised. So
that's good.
Yeah. I really hope people like what they find. I really wanted to leave some of the mystery in there. And like, I hope, the fans forgive me for not going through and spelling out what the specifics of what prefixes mean what and like what drops where. Because I feel like there's a lot of fun in like puzzling that kind of stuff out as a community, and I didn't want to take that from people. And like I'm hoping that there's a lot of mystery and excitement, and people just happen to find some really cool stuff.
I call out that we're going to have pretty cool looking caster quarterstaves and stuff now.
Oh yeah, no, I like quadrupled the rates that they were found from the Lamania preview. I feel like we've been trying like over time to try and put more and more weight on casting with quarterstaves as they compare to dual weapon sticks, and this is going to be hopefully another step forward to try and bring those to parity. But we can keep going if it's not enough.
I wanted to highlight a little bit because you're changing Jewels of Fortune. They're kind of
deleting them. We're getting rid of them.
Yeah. So, a couple questions related to that. So, what happens if I have some? What happens if I have some active when these changes go live?
All right, so there's two different places that these can be. They can either be in like an item that you're holding or an item on you, as you said, like the buff. So when this update goes live, Jewels of Fortune will be turned into like crumbling Jewels of Fortune, and their tooltips will say bring me to this particular NPC in the Kenneth Crafting Hall, and I'll exchange them for Treasure Hunter's elixirs. So for every 1 Jewel of Fortune, you get 2 Treasure Hunter's elixirs. We're just going to replace the bat for you, and you can go there at any time. We're going to leave that recipe on that vendor for as long, like forever. So if you find some more, you can always put them in there, and you can always just turn them right into the potions that increase the quality of loot. They're no longer going to do anything. If you have the buff on you, I've replaced it with a same magnitude of Treasure Hunter's elixir. So these buffs aren't actually they're going to kind of sit on top of each other. Like they're both going to be the same magnitude. If you have current Treasure Hunter's elixirs and then the fake ones from the Jewels of Fortune, one of them is going to take precedence over the other. But since when one wears off, the other one is going to come forward. Essentially, those durations are going to combine. So...
But it might not look like it at first.
It may not look like it at first, but when one wears off, the other one will come forward. So you're not going to be losing any of that time. It's just going to swap right over to the different buff, and it's going to be the same magnitude that you had before. So if you had like the highest tier, you're going to end up with the highest tier now.
Sounds good. Thank you. I know that I had a question. I'd asked that question, hadn't gotten a response in the preview form.
I'm sorry.
So,
People have been asking about a lot of things. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I just wanted to make sure that we got that information out there because I know, some people have paid for Jewels of Fortune. So when people pay for things, they have a different attachment to them, shall we say? The other thing that go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. We really just wanted to be sure that everybody ends up with something that's the equivalent or higher than what they ended up with. So we're just going to swap the whole thing over automatically, and players won't have to worry that it's going to go away.
Another question I've seen kind of come around every once in a while is relating to these treasure boosts and them increasing the chance for Mythic or Reaper boosts.
They don't do that.
They don't do that.
Not at all.
Nope. There are behind the scenes treasure tables have a certain a bonus thing associated with them, and those are different properties. Like you're looking for a different thing altogether.
So my question I think is this a technical thing or is it a design choice?
It's a design choice.
Okay.
Yeah. It was never intended to touch those. No one on the internal team when they were first being made was even I don't even actually think when those were made, Reaper and Mythic bonuses did not exist. It was just a completely different sphere of conversation.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Anything else you guys want to say about stuff coming out in update 46 patch 2 that has you excited? You want to make sure it gets out to the players?
Doors can now be broken with ranged attacks.
Right.
If you want to hit a door down and you're holding a bow, just shoot it with an arrow 3 times. If it would take 3 hits.
Torc remade Slicing Blow, which I like a lot.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that at all, Torc? It's a small thing.
We're doing a lot of reevaluating of all sorts of stuff as we look at the expansion at the end of the year, and some of the stuff that's kicking around is revitalizing old feats. One of the proposals, Slicing Blow, just happened to be really quick to do, so we buffed it considerably. It should hopefully scale to all levels and be an effective DPS option.
Oh, UI scanning, that's coming back.
Right, there is some level of that coming back.
Yeah, I was dumb when writing the preview notes and didn't know what I was looking at and saw the engineers check and was like, UI scanning's back. Post this link when you get to the release notes. And I was like, and I went to through the link and I was like, there's things in here. I don't understand what any of this means. I assume the people who care about UI scanning will know what this means. And I put it in the notes. And then I talked to the engineer afterwards, and he was like, "Oh yeah, when this goes live, I'm going to post all the new assets that are going to be available, and not just have ones from 2009." And I went, "That's why the players are confused." Okay.
Yes, I believe behind the scenes we can't do the web upload version until the actual update goes live and that they're linked together.
Yes. If we posted the new assets and all the new work that the engineers had put together now while it was on preview, and people went there and tried to use that stuff for their live client data, there would be problems. Yeah, it shouldn't have been in the preview release notes is the problem.
But it's coming out. in the live release.
I know people like UI stuff, so that should be fun. Next thing I wanted to touch on is lag. It's been a rough couple months. I just wanted to kind of give you guys ideas like, hey, what are you looking at? What's some of the work that you guys maybe have been doing to mitigate this problem?
Sure. It's always a little challenging to talk about lag. We never want to say anything like we've fixed it or anything like that because there's so many factors involved. We have been working pretty heavy on it, though. Our engineering teams have, our content teams have, even our systems folks have been doing some work to optimize the game to make sure it runs as good as it can. And, we identified and fixed quite a large number of things that have been contributing to game performance. Largely, even though it's being called lag, it's largely been kind of game engine related things along with some environment related things. And so it's not sort of a one item solution. It's really a matter of working on a number of different things. We've been doing that in recent months. And I think in recent weeks, perhaps you would disagree, Patrick, but I think certainly in recent weeks, we're in a better place than we were, a couple months ago. And so any kind of additional work we need to do, we're going to do. I would say that we've done a pretty significant pass on game improvement over the past couple of months. And at least for now, while we're keeping an eye on what we need to do to make things better, we're perhaps not putting as much of a 100% all hands on deck focus of it as we have been, say, even as much as a month or so ago.
If you want, we can talk about some of the specific improvements that are going into this next patch.
Sure.
So a lot of the stuff that happens to fix lag, ideally the players literally never notice a difference. For example, as part of a previous patch, we actually redid how bonus caster levels worked behind the scenes. And as far as I can tell, no one noticed anything, even though that pulled like 30 effects off of every single player. And so obviously that, minorly contributed towards increased game performance, but ideally the players wouldn't notice any difference because we're not replacing any large system-y thing with something like the players wouldn't see anything different. So a lot of the changes that we make are largely invisible. In this case, though, I think the players will notice something different. We put together a major change to how Reaper enhancements rest on the character. And as a consequence, right now, depending on the amount of points people have spent at the Reaper trees, those benefits are held on the player in a very particular way, and we're changing how the character stores that in the character's memory. So when this patch goes live, when a character loads into a Reaper mode dungeon, they're going to load in for a little bit longer, but it will have a more lag-free experience because we're doing all the calculations about whether or not a player is in Reaper mode right at the very beginning rather than whenever a player does anything as a whole. So I don't know.
Less recalculation every time you're, for instance, swapping weapon sets.
Yeah.
Which was a very reproducible, very easy hitch that everyone was hitting, and it's not responsible for the environment or the server blade problems that we've been having. When you just walk into an instance, and every time you walk into this instance from now on for the next half hour, it's just it's in a problem area. That's not attached to this, which we've got other work for that. But on a smaller scale, on an individual basis, that was consistent amongst all players with lots of Reaper enhancement points. That should go down significantly, if not go away.
Yeah.
A bunch of the work over the most recent months also had to do with the way our game engine interacts with the physics engine as well. And we had been doing a whole bunch of work related to our physics engine, which is, I wouldn't say the largest part of what we had been dealing with earlier this year, but certainly was a big contributor to the game performance issues we've been having.
I think also one of the engineer in particular, there's been a lot of work about client optimizations in particular for 64-bit in order to stop a lot of visual client problems that the 64-bit client was exhibiting. Like, for example, Z fighting or lighting problems or water problems in which they'll see bad reflective mapping or other visual artifacts. And that should reduce a lot of client strain when things just render properly. But as a whole, as Jerry said, lag is definitely not a one solution thing that we're searching for. It's just a whole bunch of tiny little problems that we're all tackling one at a time in the hopes that we can keep it, a completely manageable and not bad level.
thanks. I know that's a rough subject to talk about, so I appreciate you guys being really open and honest about some of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's obviously very important to like everyone. So yeah.
Next thing I kind of wanted to touch on is character balance. There's been kind of an ongoing game enhancement passes work. So maybe you can talk about what's coming next and where that work is and where it's going.
No.
There's actually some parts about that we can't talk about, unfortunately.
No, we can't.
Yeah. I would say that we have been keeping an eye out.
You're muted.
Sorry, Brent, you're muted. Yeah.
Right. I mean, yes, that is ongoing. Lots of things are happening, but we can't really talk about it yet.
I can talk about my monk pass.
Assume that a level cap expansion where the level's actually going up might cause us to change some things, so things will happen in time.
I know. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Like, we are in the process of evaluating a lot of things in our plans to increase the level cap, as we've announced we were going to do. And in order to do that, as Brent said, we have to evaluate a lot of other things that are trickle down from that base. And so at this point in time, we can say that there are probably going to be a good number of changes over the course of the rest of the year about character balance, but we can't really talk about them right now because they are hooked into features that we are not ready to announce in full. So you're at the weird gray area where we really can't say anything about something that isn't actually attached to the expansion.
I heard something about a monk pass.
Oh, I have this brilliant plan where we delete it from the game.
Yeah.
But
that's definitely not on the docket for this year.
No,
and
Yeah, we have I would say the systems team, we have a moderate list of problem areas in the game that we would like to go back and revisit. There are certain trees that still stick out that have a lot of not so great enhancements in them, and the play styles that they inform just aren't really that fun or that supported. And but right now we're really focused on expansion stuff, and we don't have anything to concretely announce about the next target of whatever balance thing we're going to do.
There were two things that I wanted to kind of circle back on, because I think there was some talk about them being looked at in the future. One was bows and how and some of the mechanics specifically in balance numbers for bows users. And then also, I think I remember when there was an Epic Destiny kind of pass, there was talk about circling back and looking at the primal form specifically as well.
Again, I hate to say this. However, all of the things that we are currently looking at for balance and system stuff is all currently tied up in what our plan is for the level cap increase and what that ecosystem looks like, including both of the things you just talked about. And I want to say things, and I might be able to say things 3 weeks from now, but I can't literally right today is the problem.
Yeah.
It's a very awkward scheduling conflict.
But there is a kind of a thing there, a tease there. It's like, hey, there's stuff coming for these things
how about
too.
this?
So.
How about this? We recognize that right now, compared to other range styles, bows are not where they should be, and they don't feel as mechanically satisfying as the ideal bow play style. And we'd like to sometime address that. That's what we got.
That's okay. That's fine. One of
way bigger. It's
yes,
just, they're going to be huge.
Jerry, we said we couldn't talk about the big arrow plan.
Sorry.
One of the things we were talking about before we started recording is legendary raids. We know they're coming. What can you tell us about that project?
All right, so can you hear me? I'm not muted.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we are looking at revisiting old raids and bringing them up to current level 32 legendary status. The first 3 raids we're looking at doing this to were the Lord of Blades, the Master Artificer, and Visions of Destruction. And we're in that process now. So we're basically going through and looking at all the old mechanics, like why is this bat special? Oh yeah, it explodes, and other things. Lord of Blades has a few colorful behaviors and so forth and so on. We hope to be doing some playtests not too far out in the future, and kind of feel like get a feel for where these old raids would fit into the current meta and how kind of the challenges they pose would match up to what characters can do now.
And the target date, at least on that, as last I heard, was next, essentially. So we're looking at update 47 for that.
Yeah.
And Feywild is update 48?
Correct.
As of right this moment, yes.
Right.
Anything's possible.
Okay, well, this sounds fun. I will say,
yeah,
Lord of Blades has long been one of my favorite raids, so...
If you want, I can talk a little bit about the reward structure for those too, because we have a lot of plans that have been finalized. So as part of this, we are actually revisiting how those heroic rewards are actually received, like for specifically the Lord of Blades and the Master Artificer. As part of this, we're completely sunsetting the entirety of alchemical crafting from the game. And by that, I mean I'm going to be going through and removing all of the costs of all of those recipes. So from now on, if you find the blank, you just put it in the machine and you choose what you want, and you'll end up with an alchemical weapon without needing to farm the raid X number of times. This content came out 11 years ago. I don't think players right now are sitting at level 20 exactly in order to play that content on Heroic Elite in order to get the items that they need. And over time, as we revisit old content, there's a lot of freedom on our end to remove some of the old grinds from the game. Alchemical crafting, I think, would be a shame to remove it entirely. Those items are very cool and I would think still have a purpose at level 20. So rather than just removing all of that loot from the game and building out new level 20 loot, I'm just going to be removing all of the grind from it. If players have old alchemical stuff that drops from that raid, like after this patch goes live in update 48, I'm going to let them turn that in for Sharn and House Cannith materials. So you'll be able to buy into a different crafting system. No more of those old stuff will drop. We're actually going to be pulling that out of the... You don't have to worry about that anymore. And rather than building out legendary alchemical with a crafting system, I'm just going to be building out cool legendary chemical weapons and then dropping those full sale. So you won't have to worry about a really complicated legendary alchemical system. You're just going to be playing the cool raid and getting your cool stuff. And yeah.
And for those who are just like, no, not my alchemical weapons, you can keep what you have, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The only thing I'm going to be doing about the crafting system for the heroic stuff is I'm going to be removing all of the costs of those recipes. So if you have the old blank or you have a weapon that's halfway done, you can just finish it right up and don't have to worry about it, and your extra stuff will go right into Sharn or right into House Cannith ingredients, whatever you want. So hopefully that will remove a lot of... it's a very weird way the drop tables were set up in which different difficulties dropped different types of ingredients rather than tiers. And I think spending the time to go through and redo it, I could end up with a really good heroic alchemical system. But I don't really think there's a lot of desire for another endgame crafting system at level 20 exactly. And rather than make players jump through those hoops, we can just, let them have their cool alchemical weapons.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. My goal is to remove one crafting system per update, and this is I'm gonna give myself a B+. This is almost as good.
There's enough. There's some more crafting systems I think that are low hanging fruit that.
Dragon Touch is on my list. Don't you know it? It's there.
Or Jack.
Oh my gosh, I have been meaning to go back and remove the flagging mechanic for that quest, and at this point I'm close to just deleting the NPCs and just getting rid of them and just put the door there and just walk right in.
As long as while you're doing that you make that area legendary, because I think that's when I hear from players a lot of this pack. Let's make this pack. Let us play this pack higher levels and stuff.
I think there's definitely a lot of desire for that, and obviously if we ever go back and epify or legendify that quest line, we'll take the time and go back and clean up some of the clunky parts of those systems as well. I think it's a really good structure for us to, as we examine content packs for epifying or revamping, we then take the time and we build out new loot or clean up the old stuff, and so the whole experience just gets a lot better.
Yeah, but the lower the quality starting point is, the further down the list of getting it done is, because the more time investment on our end is to actually bring it up to speed,
Right.
in a way that will be satisfying in any way, shape, or form.
Let's see. Other stuff that has been talked about recently. At PAX East, Severlin started talking about a whole bunch of fun stuff. And I kind of just wanted to check in some of that stuff. Starting with mega servers. He kind of talked about this idea of, instead of merging servers, having brand new, bigger servers. I think that sounds neat. I just wanted to check in and say, hey, is this the thing?
Yeah.
Is this
So
a concept?
I could
Where are we
say
at?
I could handle this one. So Sev was talking, and I believe even said this explicitly during the PAX East Q&A, that this is more conceptual in nature than something we actually have a hard and fast rule on. He was asked really about the idea conceptually of a mega server, and had answered that, yeah, he likes the idea of mega servers conceptually as a way to do server consolidation. I think perhaps people ran with that comment as more of a, oh, that's something we might actually do, more than, how do you feel philosophically about it? That's not to say we would never do something like that, but the announcement at PAX East was not, say, us announcing a mega server plan or anything like that.
I will say that there are a lot of technical hurdles that are not close to being resolved that would prevent any of those plans from ever, it is not a decision on our end to just say, let's do it. It would be a very long-term, deliberate plan with a lot of moving parts that we'd have to dedicate a lot of effort in order to get to that point.
Because there's all sorts of things that players have that maybe they would like to see transfer with, like a cosmetic pet stable or reincarnation casts.
Transferring is
that.
only half the picture, but it's a
Yeah.
pretty big part of it. So
The ideal would be a mega server in which players wouldn't lose all of their progressed items transferring to. I think that would be, I would say, the bare minimum of what players would expect.
But I think conceptually what he was expressing support for was the idea of, rather than picking servers that stay and servers that go, you set up new servers under new architecture and then have people move to those servers as, a mega server concept, either one server or two or whatever number is the right number there, right? But I think that's more what he was talking about than some kind of thing we're doing in the near term here.
Sure. The other thing I wanted to kind of pick out from that conversation, he was talking about guilds and providing kind of new experiences and goals for guilds.
Yeah, we talked about it. We have more ambitions, so much more ambition than we have time and resources. And
yeah, I think that's a long-term goal, and that is not currently on any of our dockets right now. No work is being done on that currently that I'm aware of.
I must say, from that interview, I did very much enjoy the dual reaction of Severlin and another guy. I'm not don't know who it is. When someone threw out this idea of guild TRs.
I mean, that was
yeah.
that's the only actually thing that's on our list is
is that like a 50-person opt-in? How does that work?
I don't
like
know.
a really long confirmation box. And
No,
everything.
You all have to click at the same time.
No,
It's a
the
little
guild
unwieldy,
leader
but-
gets to decide and bring everyone along with them. You don't get a say in it. It's not a democracy.
Is it wrong that I feel like you have to sacrifice a unicorn when you do this? Is that
We are getting those, so that would check out.
Some other stuff that some players are asking about is, in the past, we've heard about these ideas of possibly going to Isle of Dread or Anarok. I just wanted to check in if there's any kind of updates in any of that kind of thinking.
Yeah, I would say Anarok is kind of an oldie but goodie and is really in the pile of past ideas at this point. That's not to say we would never do it. I just don't see it as something that we really have any concrete plans to do in the foreseeable future. Isle of Dread is something that we would very much like to do, and I think that will happen at some point in the future. I just don't know the when on that. I think in the place where at the time maybe it was announced at Gen Con, we've kind of changed our plans since then, so it's not in the same time frame that it was when he was talking about it. But that's not to say it's not something we don't intend to do. I think we actually probably will be doing Isle Dread at some point in the future. Just don't know when. Anarok, though, I think Anarok may be not coming anytime soon.
And then another question that I think comes up a lot: augments, and when we might see this long talked about augment work.
Can I finish Random Loot first? Can we just get through one big systems thing?
No, so
and then
yeah, like augment update, just like the Random Loot overhaul and other large systemic game-wide systems that are improved upon or lacking, that they require an exerted amount of effort from one or multiple designers over the course of an entire update cycle, if not more. Augments, the latest quote I got from Steelstar was he thinks it would take like 6 months of work from roughly 3 different people, not 6 months for each of them, but 6 months total work. And we have consistently we have a plan in place. Literally, we know exactly what we want to do. We've spent enough cycles over the course of years figuring out what we want to do in order to make the system work and be good. And we have a detailed write-up and a knowledge of how much time it would take. And it is unclear as to when in the future we will find time to put it into the schedule as the priority. But just like a Random Loot overhaul, at some point, I expect us to get there. When that is, it's not this year, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, at the same time, though, if you had asked me a few years ago whether or not we'd be overhauling Random Loot, I would have said almost the same thing about like, well, it would take several months and like it would be a big thing, and we would have to sit down and make a big plan, and then here we are overhauling Random Loot. So it's definitely not impossible. It just will take a while.
And also at the same time, unlike the potential idea of doing, a future guild progression or something like that, or a potential mega server, like we have a plan in place. The work has been done to understand what we want to do and how we would do it. It's just about finding the time to do it. An augment update is more cemented and possible and probable in the future at some point than most of the other features we've talked about tonight.
It's also not just a design challenge, but I imagine some engineering work and other things would be involved as well. It's, so you're not just, say, looking at a Lynnabel or Steelstar and, 3 people working on this, but we're working on different groups as well. I imagine there would be some engineering work in addition to probably some art and UI design and a whole bunch of other things that have to coordinate with it.
I had a question from a listener who's asking about raid flagging and what your philosophy is going into flagging for raids. I think specifically he was kind of looking, or they were looking at the last 2 expansions. We got 2 raids. One came with the expansion, had a fairly sizable amount of flagging required. And then the one that came after didn't have any flagging required. So maybe you can talk about when you design a raid, what goes into the idea of flagging for it?
Do you want to take that? Or, I could kind of give a stock answer, which is typically, especially in situations where we have 2 raids like that for a piece of content, one of them is generally run the content and then you're flagged for the raid. And one of them is, hey, just get together with your 11 other friends and run the raid. So generally, when given a choice of having like 2 raids like that, we'll have one that is linked specifically to a culmination of the storyline we're telling. And then the other one is, you may be a little more open in terms of hanging out on a Friday night with your friends and playing a raid.
On the topic of flagging in general, like our idea of ideal flagging mechanics has evolved over the years, and it's a discussion that we've had many times, and we've had slight changes in what our standards for flagging are, and I feel like they've continuously loosened over the last 3-4 years to the point where a couple updates ago, we did keep in the Borderlands, and because there was no real hard narrative through line throughout all the quests, we didn't have any flagging, and then with the latest pack, the Lost Gatekeepers, we also didn't have any flagging there, even though it did have a narrative through line. and we did a lot of messaging to try and push you towards following the narrative, because that's what flagging is for, really. It's not meant as an arbitrary, you can't do this unless you do this other thing. It's to try and move the player along the narrative in a way that will actually make sense, so you can actually experience the story and understand what's going on and have context when you step into the piece of content at the end. And I feel like we have been loosening that as time has gone on, and it'll be interesting to see what standard we continue to, what we use going forward. But I don't think we're going to get super restrictive again in the future currently.
We're certainly not planning anything like Stealer of Souls or anything like anything that would require like Litany of the Dead level. So yeah, like we're definitely, no matter where we end up, we're not ending up there. Like I can say 100% certainty we're not doing that again.
That was really mirrored by the design philosophy at the time, though, in MMOs. You know, that was a far more common kind of experience at the time of its creation. So.
Yeah, it's a tension between linear storytelling and having access. We're tending towards looser, and we'll see what happens depending on how the next pack shapes out, and what the story is and what the requirements are.
Anything else? I'm out of questions. Do you guys have anything else you really want to let the players know about? Maybe when we'll see Legendary Pit or something like that.
Never.
I mean, you know, we did these 3 raids. We'll see how they go. If they go well, I could easily see it.
Yeah, there would be half the DDO community would love to see a Legendary Pit, and the other half will just screaming right now.
It's not that bad. Yeah. It's a good quest.
Yeah. But no, I don't know. I mean, we've kind of covered a lot of the bases. We've got some exciting news about the next season of Hardcore that we'll be talking about. We've got Update 47 that we'll be talking about in the near future with the Legendary Raids and a free quest. We've got Feywild we'll be talking about here in the near future. And we've been enjoying, and I think the community's been enjoying our free content initiative that's been running through May here. And so I know we've got some conversations going on about that as well. So actually, I think we're going to have a busy June when it comes to kind of announcements and things to talk about.
Yeah, this is a really cool time for DDO. Like, lots going on.
Well, thanks, guys.
And also happy 600th, by the way.
Yeah, well, thanks.
Yeah, congratulations.
I just pilot the ship at this point and try not to hit a rock. Other people did all the hard work before.
Hey, after 600 episodes, it can take some rocks. It's got a high constitution, so
at least 2 rocks.
Yep.
Well, thanks very much, guys, for joining me. Really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day and schedules to join us and talk about DDO and all the fun stuff we got going on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Jared, you want to sign us off with the famous tagline for episode 600?
Sure. May all your attack rolls be crits and all your chests level appropriate. Have fun and don't forget to gather for boss.